Does anyone know
This is kind of background music.
Okay, we are live.
Okay, are we ready? I'll declare the meeting open and welcome everyone that's attending, and to give a brief description of the purpose of the panel and live streaming. The Bayside Planning Panel is charged with considering planning proposals of any scale and value and determining development applications where the value is less than $30 million and where there is a potential conflict or it is a contentious development, or there is a substantial departure from development standards, or it is a sensitive development. Council no longer considers these types of developments. In particular, the panel must consider development applications which have attracted 10 or more unique objections in a public meeting. Others can be considered outside of a public meeting. All decisions are published on Council's website, normally within 48 hours. Live streaming, the public meeting is being recorded and is live streamed to Council's YouTube page. The recording is an official record of Council and may be made available to persons on request in accordance with Freedom of Information legislation, Government Information Public Access Act 2009. Applicants and members of the public that have registered to speak on an item will be asked to unmute their phone or computer at the relevant time to address the panel and to answer any questions. Alternatively, members of the public may have registered for the meeting by making a written submission which have been provided to the panel members. Once the panel has heard from all of the speakers, including the applicants, we will either make a decision during the public meeting or adjourn to consider our decision. As previously mentioned, all decisions of the panel are published on the Council website. My name is Ross Bonthorn. I'm an architect planner. I had been for a number of years the principal architect and a board member within the Land Lease group of companies. I served on the City of Sydney Council for some 17 or 18 years and also on Pittwater Council, and I'm currently involved as an architect planner with major urban renewal projects in this country and internationally. I'd like to then welcome the other panel members. Katrina, if I could welcome you. And this is your first meeting, so welcome the other panel members.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name's Katrina Blando. I'm the community panel planning member for this evening. I have grown up in Bayside Council area, and I also now am raising my family in Bayside Council area. And my background is as an architect with heritage experience for the last 7 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Yes, good evening. Jan Morell. I'm a town planner of some 40 years. I serve on local planning panels and the state planning panel, and I have no conflict of interest.
Thank you. Robert?
Good evening, Robert Montgomery. I'm a town planner. My background is in local government and state government, and for the last 15 years or so in private practice. I also sit as an expert on 2 other similar Sydney panels, and I'm one of the chairs of Wollongong Local Planning Panel, and I have no conflict of interest in relation to the items on the agenda tonight.
Thank you, Robert. I'll move then on to the items on the agenda. Item number 1, acknowledgement of country. Bayside Council respects the traditional custodians of the land, the elders past and present in which this meeting takes place, and acknowledges the Gadigal and Bidjigal clans of the Sydney Basin. Apologies, I believe we have no apologies. Disclosures of interest, I'll just have that confirmed. that none of the panel members have a conflict of interest. I do not. Jan, you do not.
No.
Katrina
I do not.
and Robert, you've indicated you don't. So there are no conflicts of interest. Minutes of the previous meetings. There was a meeting on the 8th of March, and so we will receive and confirm those minutes. And then item number 5, planning proposals. We do not have any planning proposals. We have 2 items on the agenda. Item 6.1 is 90 Bestick Street, Banksia, which is Park. There are a number of people who've requested. Some of them are written submissions and others are wishing to speak. The recommendation is for approval, and I would welcome initially, if of all of the people who have listed, if a spokesperson could briefly summarise so that then the panel can ask questions of any of the other members. So is Mr. Glanville, would you be perhaps able to give a summary, or is there someone else?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Glanville has written submissions.
I'm sorry.
There is Mr. Lachlan Rogers, is the senior town planner.
All right. So Lachlan, could you, I'm sorry that there are a number of people, and so I guess it would be good to have a spokesperson to begin with, or if there's someone who you believe is more likely to be a spokesperson, that's fine, rather than go through everyone saying exactly the same things.
No, that's fine. I'm happy to be the spokesperson on behalf of the applicant. So the applicant is for the construction of a grandstand associated with the wider redevelopment of the Barton Park Sports Precinct. Now, the wider redevelopment of the area in line with the master plan is being undertaken as Part 5 development permitted without consent, in which a review for environmental factors was approved in March. Now, the grandstand itself cannot be progressed as development permitted without consent. Therefore, the DA was lodged purely for the grandstand component. As far as the assessment report provided by council, we agree with the conclusions of the assessment and we're happy with the conditions. And I have the architect, landscape architect, and the contamination consultant available for any questions the panel may have.
Lachlan, that's fine. Thank you. Panel members, do you have any questions of the other consultants or of Lachlan himself? Jan?
No, thank you. I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Katrina? Well, Katrina, you're muted, I think.
No, thank you. I'm satisfied as well.
Look, I'm satisfied with the proposal. I'll just make a comment to Lachlan. Lachlan, are you aware that Greg made a request for some sort of delegation for future changes?
No, I'm not aware of that.
No, okay. Well, just for the record, the panel did receive a written request from Greg asking that the panel delegate, or words to this effect, delegate its authority to the General Manager for any future changes that may be required as a consequence of various international sporting requirements. For the record, the panel can only delegate authority for aspects relating to this development application only. We certainly can't pre-delegate authority for something that might happen in the future. And of course, the request doesn't specify what those changes might be, and those changes may or may not require separate development consent. So it's not a negative thing that I'm saying. It's just saying that what Greg was requesting we can't do. But in relation to the application tonight, yeah, I'm certainly satisfied with that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And if there are no further comments, I have no comments other than to say it's an amazing project, and going there today you realise how fortunate this area is to have those sorts of facilities, and the and the extent to which it will help the community is pretty significant. I actually hadn't been to Barton Park fully until today, and it's an extraordinary piece of landscaping and an amenity which obviously now is going to give greater value to the community. So thank you. The recommendation in the report is for approval. The panel will consider and make a determination which will be available within 48 hours. So thank you, unless you have any other further questions or comments, Lachlan.
No, that's it. Thank you for considering the application and your time this evening.
Thank you. All right. So I'll move on to the next item if I can, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have one written submission from Ms. Crystal Narby, Town Planner, applicant's representative. That's against the officer's recommendation. And we also have one speaker against, which is Mr. Jared Terrace, Director of GAT and Associates Proprietary Limited, applicant's representative. And we also have Mr. Stephen Maraka, affected neighbour, who is for the officer's recommendation. So those two people are.
Sorry, so should we first hear from the affected neighbour, Mr. Maraka? Mr. Maraka, I'm not sure if you can hear us. Hopefully you can. I think you're muted at the moment. Can you hear us?
There it goes. Is that better?
That helps. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sorry about that. So this is for the childcare centre, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We live right next door to the site. This is the second time we've opposed the development. The first time, all the previous councillors that voted no for many reasons. The huge impact on the residents. We live directly across the road from the busy Arncliffe Public School for 40 years, and we've never complained about anything. When the school makes too much noise, we can simply go to the back of our house. With the childcare centre next door, we'll have nowhere to go. This is just way too much. Second, council recommends not having two facilities close to each other for amenity. We already have a childcare centre, a teachers training facility on the corner, the busy school. This will be the fourth facility, plus we have a childcare centre coming online soon on the Princess Highway. The third major issue is our roads are poorly designed and are way too narrow. The carriageway is the surface area of the road vehicles use. Council requires this carriageway to be 12 metres wide. Sejourno Street is less than 11 and the laneway is only 5.5. Now, why is this important? Because the gap between opening the car door for the children to get out and the passing traffic is too narrow. Council will be breaking its own rules. Council recommends a street with a straight line of sight. We have a dangerous S-bend less than 20 metres and multiple blind spots at the intersections around us, resulting in at least 3 car crashes in the street since the last time it was proposed. The owners simply should have researched better before buying this property. It's not the council's job now to widen the roads or to install footpaths in the back lane so children don't step out onto the traffic. It's not the job of the council to change the back lane to a one-way street because 2 cars can't pass on the blind 90-degree bend. We have no pedestrian crossings, we have no lighting, signage, and the laneway has a slope. Plus, cars in their underground car park will need to reverse, and reversing is dangerous around young children. Parents from the school already struggle to find parking, so council has had to put up no double parking signs, and you need to see the chaos during drop-off and pick-up times, especially when it rains. Why would we add to this? Plus, we have 3 highways that surround us that get gridlocked during peak hour. So many other issues like drilling through the sandstone, our homes will crack. The shade cloth blocks our sun. The huge second floor veranda play area will take away all of our privacy and tower over us. The setback isn't consistent. Children climb and could easily fall off this veranda. And we have 5 blue-tongued lizards that go between the yards. What will happen to them? The trees will need to be cut down for safety and so much more. In closing, please vote no for this proposal. The council's role is to ensure safety and that businesses and residents can live together. and this isn't the case with this proposal. And I'm sorry, I'm very nervous. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Panel members, do you have any questions? No? Robert, no?
Yeah, look, just one question, Stephen. The back lane,
Yeah.
do you and many of the other houses who back onto that lane, do you use that for car access?
Yes, because usually the front is, we have no parking in the front.
Right.
Because we have no parking because the parents and the teachers on the corner use all the parking.
Yeah.
And we also have an issue with when the airport's back and running, someone's parked in front of their houses for 6 months at a time, and we can't do anything about that. So I personally use the back lane all the time, and so do other neighbours as well.
So your garage and parking area on your property is accessed from the back?
Yeah, that's our back. And
Yep.
I'm worried that people will start parking behind
Yep.
our garages as well. We
Yep.
won't be able to get out. So, and you should really see the back lane. It was compared to a street in Newtown previously. It's really badly designed.
Okay, thank you for that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thanks.
Stephen, thank you very much. As you probably heard earlier, the panel will make a determination later tonight, and it'll be available within 48 hours, but we will also be asking the applicant or his representatives to make some submissions to us as well. Hopefully, if you are able to stay and listen, we might come back and ask you briefly if you would like to make a comment later.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, I'll definitely stay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have several people who have made written submissions, but we have someone who is one person.
Mr. Joe Terrace.
Mr. Terrace, thank you very much. The recommendation, as you have perhaps seen in the report, is for refusal.
Yes, I understand.
You've heard one of the neighbours' comments.
Yeah.
If you would like to address some of that and address the report that has been prepared by council staff, then I'll leave it open to panel members to ask questions or make any comments.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I've deliberately also suggested that Stephen may wish to make a comment to your observations as well. Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I'll probably just go through the officer's report and then I'll touch on some of the comments the submitter had made. I just want to make sure that the panel members got a copy of our letter, which we attached to some sketches. It was a one-page letter in terms of a response to the officer's report. I'll make the assumption that the panel members do have that because I will be referring to it. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Is that intended to be an amendment to your development application? It's just addressed to the panel members. It's not to the council. And it's not clear what you're expecting us to do with that, notwithstanding that it was only received yesterday.
Well, under council's procedures, we're only allowed to provide one page, and it was an ability to demonstrate to the panel how I think some of those issues can be resolved. So it might be clearer as I present how that might assist you in understanding what I'm saying verbally in terms of visualising those comments.
Right. Okay. So okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, for us to formally do it, we have to put it on the portal. It's a whole process, but I'm of the understanding the panel generally doesn't accept amended plans. So I've taken a position of just trying to deal with it in that context.
Correct.
So look, panel, look, after reviewing the officer's report, we see there are 7 key issues, and I feel it's probably better that I try to address those individually. The first one relates to the concern about the outdoor play area. The council officer makes reference that we've included areas which we should have excluded. If you adopt the officer's recommendation in terms of what you should exclude, the impact is that we would actually lose 3 children from the actual numbers. And I guess our view is that we would be happy to accept a condition which reduces the number of children from 71 down to 68, which therefore means that the proposal would be compliant, and we would address that concern in the officer's report. The second point I wanted to discuss is the issue raised about the sunken front yard. As the panel would see in the cross-section I provided in that letter, the actual level difference is approximately 1 metre. There's two steps of 500 millimetres each, and I would ask the panel to actually look at the photo montage which was provided, which clearly illustrates that the built form will be visible from the street. So there will be connectivity from the street to the building and vice versa. There is a front fence which is proposed. We're happy for that to be reduced to 600 millimetres in height, and we're even happy for it to be removed because there isn't any specific need for it. And we can also look at planting types, and again, that's all about ensuring connectivity. And again, we respectfully submit that's something which can be imposed as a condition, and that would overcome those concerns which were raised about that sunken front yard. In terms of the design of the first floor terrace, again, we provide an alternative option in response to the comments which were made by the council officers in their report. And that includes to the size and extension of those external walls along the terraces. We note that this building is some 2 metres lower than the existing house and actually extends only approximately 6.5 metres past the existing 2-storey form to the rear. So we actually consider that the built form as suggested would address the council's concerns without creating any impacts. We also note that the site has a 12-metre height control and an FSR of 1.25 allowable under the LEP, while our proposal is well below this control, being only 2 storeys and only has an FSR of 0.53:1. Even if you included, for instance, the first floor terrace as FSR, just for argument, then our FSR would be 0.73:1 and well below the 1.25 FSR prescribed under the LEP. I guess what I'm trying to reinforce to the panel is that the actual scale and bulk of this development is clearly well below that which the planning controls envisages on this site. So it's not about seeking too much development in our respectful submission. The changes to the wall can be conditioned. That's why that sketch was there, because we felt that that's something which can be articulated to assist in that opportunity. The fourth point I wanted to raise is landscaped area. The report acknowledges that we don't comply with the landscaped area, but if you actually look at the definition of landscaped area, it actually includes, by definition, areas which are turf. So we are compliant with landscaped area as per the definition. However, we have no objections to replace this turf with screen planting. And again, that can be conditioned to overcome the concerns in the officer's report. In reference to the next point, in reference to the ground floor terrace, the maximum height of the ground floor terrace to the rear is about it's just under 1 metre in actual height. We fundamentally have adopted a balanced approach in terms of ensuring that we have level floor plates. As the panel might appreciate from a functionality point of view, it's important to be able to work on these floor plates. And so we felt that the balance of a 1 metre cut and fill type of strategy is generally pretty consistent with the way you would look at built form across Sydney. In our view, it's not excessive. We know that the building's well below the LEP height controls. Actually, our height is only 8.2 metres. As I said previously, where allowable is 12 metres. The other point I wanted to raise was the play equipment. The recommendation of the acoustic engineer has said that there should be no play equipment greater than 500 millimetres in height. And we submit that that is actually achievable through the use of stepping mounds and A-frame trestles that are commonly used as part of a childcare operation. There's no licensing requirements that say you have to have large play equipment, slides or the like on the site. So there is clearly an ability to comply with our acoustic report and our licensing requirements. The final point I want to raise is waste, and it was one of the submissions which were raised there was a number of submissions, but one of the issues which the officers raised was waste and the concern about its location. We're happy for it to be relocated to the waste area. There's ample space, and I can identify that to the panel if they want me to, but there's an ability to relocate the waste. It's only 3 bins, which we would need. And we're also happy to have a private contractor come and collect that waste as well. And so that's something which we feel can be imposed as a condition of consent. So they, in our view, are the key points which were actually raised within the officer's report. And I think I've tried to articulate that, in my view, those issues can be resolved, as I've just stated. So in our view, we actually feel that the application is worthy of approval. We also want to note, or let the panel also be aware of the fact, and the previous speaker acknowledged it, there was actually an approval for a childcare centre on this site in 2016. That approval was for up to 50 children. We're fundamentally seeking an increase of 18 children through this application. And really that's come about because since that application, there's been an upzoning of the area. And so the applicant has elected, he didn't act on that consent, but he's elected to want to seek and take advantage of the fact that there will be greater population in that area, and hence that's why we've come in for additional children. We haven't tried to put third levels or try to exceed any of those controls which are allowed. In terms of the officer's report, as the panel will be aware, the building's been designed with a basement car park. Access to the basement car park is off that rear lane. All parents will be and staff will be utilising that car park. The actual design of the car park, you'll see in the plans, actually has a pedestrian link for children. So there's a safe passage within the basement car park. And we engaged obviously a traffic engineer, being McLaren's Traffic, who prepared the traffic report. Council's reviewed that traffic report, and you'll see in the officer's report there's no objections or concerns raised from a traffic management perspective. So from our point of view, we felt that we've addressed the traffic issues. So panel, I think that's pretty much all I want to say in terms of presentation, but clearly I'm happy to answer any questions the panel might have.
Panel members, do you have any questions? Jan?
No, thank you.
Robert?
The previous consent for the 51 place childcare centre, has that consent lapsed, or has it been secured by commencement, or is it fall under the COVID orders? Yeah,
my understanding is from speaking to the client that it hasn't yet lapsed. I understand it's still a consent which is operational, but in saying that, I haven't done that research myself. I'm just relaying what I've been advised, so I can't say with certainty, but my understanding is it's still current.
Okay. The other question I wanted to ask was I was going to ask about traffic, but as you say, there was a traffic report, and I'm assuming that there was an analysis, and particularly of peaks and you know, what peaks the school has, etc., and how they coincide with the childcare centre and shared trips and all of that sort of thing. But I note that the council officers haven't raised that as an issue, notwithstanding that I think the neighbours would probably disagree with the council's idea of traffic there.
Yes.
But my question is, I guess it's a bigger picture question in some ways. What is it about this site that makes it suitable for, I'll say so, this is suitable for that sort of intensity?
Look, I mean, the fact that it's actually opposite the school has some connectivity and linkages. There's no question about that. My understanding is my client, who was involved in the previous application, has certainly done, and he has other childcare centres, has obviously done his feasibility assessment in terms of the economics of it. So my understanding is that his a journey. But from my experience as a planner, I find that childcare centres in close proximities to schools obviously does have that synergy and flexibility where parents can actually not only utilise the school but can actually utilise the childcare centre in close proximity. So there are some benefits in that sort of connectivity.
All right, thank you for that. That's all from me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Katrina, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I don't have any questions.
All right.
Satisfying, thank you.
Sorry, Chair, can I just ask for one clarification? I'm just trying to understand, is the applicant asking us to, given the changes, defer the matter or do a deferred commencement, or what are you actually seeking from the panel?
I'm very cautious of what I ask because I find different panels have different views and interpretation of whether you can defer or not. I guess from my perspective, I have no issues in seeking a deferral to make the changes to the plans so they can obviously be checked off. The other option I've put before the panel is obviously I feel that there are conditions which can be imposed, which can be well articulated to deliver that outcome. So we're not immune to either of the two options. Obviously condition would mean that we get an operational consent and it means that the panel can make a determination. But if the panel is concerned about that, then obviously we're happy to do a deferral. We can get the plans and any changes back to council within a week because obviously you can see some work has already been done after reviewing that report. I'm just a bit cautious that, I just don't want to say to the panel, I want you to do this because, as I said, my experience is every panel likes to do it a little bit differently. Consent with conditions. If the panel feel uncomfortable with that, and the only reason I think that would be the case might be that wall, then a deferral to allow us to change those plans to provide what you see in that elevation and those 3D images, we can provide that to the council through a deferment and those plans being amended accordingly.
Thank you. That's all.
All right. Thank you very much. So, Stephen, do you have any comments you'd like to make, having listened to some of the questions from the panel and also from the applicant?
Thank you. I think he's underplaying the traffic issue that we have around this area and the issue with the back lane. And I'm pretty sure the applicant, the 5-year, was the application fell through after 5 years. So I'm pretty sure it said 5 years limit. So he's not being a bit honest with that part there. I think he's just dismissing our argument with all the traffic and all the issues with the roads around us. That's my biggest concern, is that you haven't seen what it's like out here, and you really need to see what it's like before you can make the decision, because the parents already struggle to find parking. I don't think he can guarantee everyone will use the basement parking. I don't know how he's going to force everyone to use that parking when people might be dropping off kids at the front of the school and then have to walk around the back, or how are they going to do that? So there's a lot of things that you might have seen, especially with the traffic and the parking and the chaos that goes along in this area. So I think he's bypassing all the issues that we've had. And I don't know what to say. I just wish you guys could see what we see on a daily basis when the school's running, and then you change your mind for sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Mr. Chair, I just feel the need to make a comment in response to what Stephen said. I'd hate to think that he was casting some bad light on Mr. Terrace's honesty there. The question about whether or not consent has lapsed is not as simple as you might think it is. It generally is 5 years.
Yeah, that's
but you have
5 years. Yeah.
But you need to add to that since COVID, there's been ministerial directions that extend the period depending on when the consents were issued, and also in the period of the last 5 years, the definition of commencement in the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act has also changed in relation to what secures a consent. In other words, once you commence work, the consent never lapses. So, you know, for all we know, the owner may have commenced work. So I think, you know, to be fair to Mr. Terrace, if he was asked that question without notice, and unless he'd actually looked at all of the dates and worked his way through the COVID regulations, as I have to when I'm answering a similar question from clients, I think that's a reasonable answer that he gave. Thank you.
No worries. Yep.
And
So,
can I also, sorry,
Yeah.
Chair, can I also add that you can't assume, many of the panel members are very familiar with the site.
Okay, good. Yeah.
And so you should not assume that we haven't seen or experienced what you consider to be the traffic issues. So I just wanted to make that clear. We don't make these decisions in a vacuum.
No worries. Thank you.
Gerard, would you like to just have one final comment?
Mr. Chair, no, I think I've pretty much said what I need to say. Otherwise, I'm just going to repeat. I'm sure you don't want to hear me again.
No, I just thought
it's fine. No, it's all good. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the panel will consider further and will make a determination that should be available within 48 hours. Thank you both for your attendance today. And as I said, it'll be available hopefully within 48 hours as a decision by the panel.
No problems.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
6:37. I'll close this meeting.